Welcome to this edition of the Forum. I'm your host, Sheila Evans. Here on the Forum, we highlight interesting and important achievements, programs, and events within our school system and community. Today's show is no exception. Things get underway with Maureen Kanika. She is a school psychologist at Freeman and Sipes Elementary, and she's recently won the North Carolina School Psychology Association Practitioner of the Year Award. Then we meet with Beth Gaglione, Wilmington Branch Director of the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina. She tells us about their role in the community and how you at home can help. And finally, Danielle Williams, science teacher at Laney High School, stops in the studio. She will tell us about textbooks and how both teachers and students are benefiting from them. It's another great edition of the Forum, so stick around. We'll get right back with our guests after this short break.
Of all the things you've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community, which means your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
I am joined by Maureen Kanika. She's a school psychologist with New Hanover County Schools, and here today to talk about a recent award that she's received, the North Carolina School Psychology Association Practitioner of the Year Award. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome work. Glad to have you here in the county representing us. Can you explain what the award is?
Sure. The North Carolina School Psychology Association is the School Psychologists State Association. And we have a large fall conference every year. And
Okay.
at the fall conference, they give out an award to a school psychologist who exemplifies the best practices in school psychology for comprehensive psychological services, ethical practice, and maintaining standards of professional practice.
Nice. What kind of accomplishments do you think led to you getting this award?
I laugh because I tell my husband I got an award for doing my job.
Yeah. Isn't it nice though?
I guess it's nice, but at the same time it's kind of weird. I think part of what got me my job or the award is, within my day-to-day work in my buildings, I do lots of collaboration with all of the groups
Nice.
that are stakeholders in the building. So I'm involved with mental health professionals, but I'm involved with instructional coaches on the instructional side and with student support teams, and have done a lot of collaborative work with communities in schools in my buildings and how to incorporate that support in a way that makes sense to meet the needs of students.
You're like a case manager.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, right in the school. Tell us about your background, how long you've worked for New Hanover County Schools.
I started with New Hanover County Schools in August of 2013. Prior to that, I actually started my career in education as a teacher. And have had a lot of different background experiences that probably have shaped the way I think about school psychology, including my husband and I were actually therapeutic parents at the Yahweh Center back in the 1990s when they were just opened up. So I went from teaching, went back to school to become a school psychologist, and worked the majority of my school psychology career actually in Craven County.
Okay, New Bern.
Yes, New Bern, and then came to New Hanover in 2013 and haven't looked back.
Have you pretty much worked with the same age group, or has that been varied?
It has actually varied.
Okay.
When I was in Craven County, I actually was the preschool school psychologist for the district, and was on a state team that actually trained preschool teams across the state. But I've also had experience from preschool all the way up to high school. So I've worked high school age, and right now I work 2 elementary schools and then Lake Forest Academy, which is a collaborative day treatment program for students with mental health.
So we're keeping you busy.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things that a school psychologist does?
Oh, wow. School psychologists are trained in so many different things that to do comprehensive school psych services is actually a lot to juggle. So we're trained in data analysis, and so a lot of times we're called upon by schools to look at composite data with them and help them make sense out of it, all the way down to individual student data. We do evaluations for students being considered for special education services. We do consultation for a whole range of things, from students with behavior issues in the regular ed classroom to specific students with disabilities that the staff might need help figuring out how to make successful.
Okay. So you actually do some of the testing for the students right there on campus?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes,
you have
we
to
do.
bring in testing folks that these kids haven't seen before. That must alleviate some of that stress for kids from time to time.
Absolutely, and then it's easier for them to miss less of school if we're doing evaluations, because if they go to an outside provider, they're going to have to get checked out of school and miss a lot of time.
Right, right. How about some favorite work activities involved in your job?
Favorite work activity? I have a whole bunch of them.
Well, good.
I think my absolute favorite thing is being part of collaborative teams. So I really like it when I'm sitting at the table about individual students, and we have the parents at the table and any outside service providers that might be working. And we really are able to delve into what's going on with that student at that time to try and affect some positive next steps for them to be successful. And then my second favorite thing is I love doing professional development. So all aspects of professional development to kind of build the capacity of other people to understand how to do some of the things that I'm trained to do as a school psychologist.
So you would be doing that, teaching someone else?
Yes, actually when I leave here, I'm headed over to Gregory, and I'm working with a behavior specialist and another school psychologist, and we're working with the staff over there to understand the impact of poverty on children's behavior and learning.
Very good, very good. Okay, favorite work activities. How about some of your biggest challenges?
I would say my biggest challenge is school psychologists are spread really thin. So I serve 3 schools, and in order to do really good work, there's constant follow-up to the activities that we do or the decisions that we make, and when you're in 3 schools, it's really difficult to keep up with that follow-up. And so I would say that's one of the biggest challenges. The recommended ratio for school psychologists is actually 1 school psychologist per 500 students, and we're at about 1 to 1,700 right now.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot.
So what does your week look like? You said 3 schools, so do you go to Snipes on a certain day, and how does that look?
I have my base schedule such that I have certain days that I intend to go to each school.
Sure.
And there's certain things that I will never miss at my schools, and so they know that they can rely on me for those. In order to meet the needs of 3 schools that need to have meetings when it works for them, sometimes I have to fly from one school to the other.
Right.
I'm blessed because I have Freeman Elementary and Snipes,
Right
and
down
they're
the street.
they're right down the street, and so when I need to hop in my car and shoot between them, I can. But my week, really, it's filled with meetings, which I
Gotcha.
would rather or not filled with, and
Right.
then time in classrooms, time with children, time with parents.
Right. And last question, most fulfilling part of being a school psychologist? Obviously, it's something you chose after being a teacher for so long.
Right. I would say the most fulfilling thing about being a school psychologist is it can't be measured as something big. It's when there's a small success for a student, those small successes really add up to something big. So next week is actually School Psychology Awareness Week.
Oh.
And the theme of the week is small steps, big changes.
Nice.
And so I would say that for me is probably the most fulfilling thing, is when a student's able to do something they were never able to do before, or when we actually connect with a parent in a way that helps them understand what services their child might need, not even in the school system, maybe from outside agencies.
Right.
But it's the small things that in the long run make the biggest difference.
Very good. Well, again, congratulations.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in a few minutes with our next guest.
In the 1920s, Sherwood Anderson used the theories of Freud to write about the private problems of small-town Middle Westerners in Winesburg, Ohio. Anderson portrayed his characters as leading unfulfilled and twisted lives. Anderson's prose, derived from everyday American speech, influenced almost every great American writer of the next generation. This background in literature has been brought to you by New Hanover County Schools.
No. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
My guest is Beth Gaglione. She is the Wilmington Branch Director for the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina. That's a big title.
It is. It's a long one.
The word food insecurity, help us understand what that means.
You know, the way I describe it to my own kids is I say, do you know where your next meal is coming from? And of course their answer always is yes, or usually. But there are a lot of people, not just here in Wilmington, but all around the region and our state and our country, that when you ask that question to them, more frequently they will say, I don't know where my next meal will come from. And that's really what the root of food insecurity is.
Is it a big problem here in our area?
It is. Surprisingly, and people are pretty astonished at this number, about 74,000 people in what we would call our Cape Fear region consider themselves to be food insecure. They don't know where that next meal is coming from usually.
Wow.
6,000 of them are seniors too, which is really heartbreaking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How does the food bank help these individuals?
So the food bank serves as a place where food donations from all over our area, all over our state, all over our region can be donated, and then we distribute them to organizations that are feeding those who are hungry. And so we have 100 of those agencies right here in New Hanover County, Brunswick County, Columbus, and Pender, who are distributing food on a very regular basis to those who are in need. So for most of those organizations, we serve as their primary food source.
Very good. Now it's getting to be holiday time. Tell us about your holiday meals drive.
Well, the Holiday Meals campaign really is an effort for us to restock our shelves, to sort of reboot the food bank in a sense, so that we can have enough food to support what usually is an increased need. And you know, that need is really born out of a tradition that we were all raised with, and that is to be able to provide a tasty, nourishing meal during the holiday season, which is Thanksgiving and Christmas for most of us.
So the need comes from the fact that we're having these bigger meals. Okay. How can people help?
So there are two primary ways to help. One is there is a website set up at foodbankcenc.org/holiday meals.
Okay.
And people, for every $1 that is donated, we can provide 5 meals to those in need.
Wow.
And that's really about accessing food, again, from all over the place and bringing it into the food bank and getting it out to folks who are distributing it. But you can also organize a food drive at your workplace, at your school, at your church, and you can bring those donations right to the food bank at 1314 Marsteller Street.
Okay. What are the most needed items?
Well, the most needed items that we typically see all year round are canned fruits and vegetables, cereals, pasta sauce, canned meats. We usually think of that as tuna fish, beef stew. You know, sweet potatoes and those sorts of things are very popular during the holiday season, and corn and cornbread, things of that nature. But we also see a need for non-food items throughout the course of the year, and especially now as we clean up after what we know to be Hurricane Matthew, which has left us a couple of weeks ago.
So what are those types of items?
Those are really hygiene items and cleaning products, things like Clorox. Clorox has really been a popular request as of late. But anything you would use to clean your home is a very much needed item right now.
Okay, well that makes sense. What comes for you all after the holiday season?
After the holidays, we tend to see a really quiet time at the food bank. And so people have placed a lot of emphasis on collecting food items throughout the course of the holidays, and things get pretty quiet. And so we just encourage people to think about us all year round, because food is a need. Your need for food doesn't go away after the holiday season.
Do you find that with the holidays, we talked about the fact that, you know, there's bigger meals, it's the holiday sense of being, if you will. Do you find the need great with school closed for the students who are counting on those school lunches, breakfast, whatever?
We do. And we at the food bank have an emphasis on those weeks when school is closed, not just during the winter holidays, but the spring holiday as well. But we also work with partner agencies all over the region, like Nourish NC, and they do a lot for kids when school is closed, as well as some of our partners in other parts of the viewing area too.
So not only do you support them directly, you support them indirectly through those groups.
We do.
That send the food home with the kids and such.
We do.
Very good. How can viewers get more information or help out?
The best place to find information about what we're doing during the holidays is to go to foodbankcenc.org/holiday meals. And you'll find all kinds of information there, not only about how to make a monetary donation, but how to collect food with a food drive, or how just to pull some things out of your pantry and bring them over and support our efforts. So it's all there.
Do you ever have volunteer needs outside of having a food drive?
We do.
Maybe for our high schoolers that need some community service hours? Or
We are open the week before Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving, the week before Christmas, and we do see a huge increase in donations, and we do need more help than normal sorting through them, reboxing them, and getting them out the door. So whether it is a school group or your company maybe wants to come out, maybe you want to do an alternative Christmas party, come and do it with us. We'd love to have you.
And what would that look like for them? What would they be doing? Would they have to dress special?
So we have 2 simple rules: closed-toed shoes and bring a water bottle. Because even though it's cold in the warehouse, it's a lot of heavy lifting, so to speak. Not too much. I mean, it's something that any of us can do. But you do get thirsty after 2 hours of moving food around. Sometimes we'll have, today in the warehouse we have apples, and so we're packing apples into small netted bags, but it usually is sorting through canned food product, putting it in categories or a mix of categories, and reboxing them so that when people take them, they find a nice mixture of things that a family could use. It's fun.
Yeah, it sounds like fun, and they could do it together. And is there an age requirement?
I think what we typically encourage is 5 and up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we do take small children.
I was expecting to hear 15, maybe 12.
You know, unsupervised, we do ask for high school age and up.
Sure.
But so a 5-year-old, anything under, typically 12, 13, 14, 15, I think the cutoff is 15, does have to be supervised. But I should mention, while we're talking about young children, that the second Saturday of every month, we do something at the food bank that we call Family Day. And so families can come and sign up to volunteer together. We do get very busy during the holiday season with those Saturdays, but January, February, March, April, we do it all month long, or all year long on the second Saturday of the month. And just call our branch at 910-251-1465 and ask to speak to our volunteer coordinator, and she can sign you up for that.
Nice, and the whole family could come,
That's
and the
right.
5-year-old would be
and
supervised.
And the 5-year-old too, yeah.
Excellent, they wouldn't have to be left out.
That's
I'm
right.
sure they do.
They do love it. It's so fun for them.
Very good. Well, Beth, thanks for filling us in, and
Sure.
hopefully some of our folks will take care of the holiday meal drive for you.
I hope so.
Okay,
Thank
we'll be
you.
back in a few minutes, right after these messages.
If you're looking for a new pet that you can cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are full of healthy, loyal, fun, loving pets, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, you can visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Hello, little prince. Mother, what we gonna do today?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
My guest is Danielle Williams. She's a science teacher at Laney High School, and she's here today to talk about science tech books. So Danielle, tell us what a tech book is.
A tech book is a digital textbook, basically. So it's more interactive, it's more up to date and current. It's just like the textbook students would normally have, except it's online.
And how does a student access it? I come in your classroom, and what does it look like?
So students access it the same way they get into the way they access their grades online. So we have a single sign-on, that's what we call it. So students can easily remember one password for all of the assignments that they need and for all the apps that they need. And so they log on, they see the Discovery Education icon, and they log right into their tech book.
So does your classroom look like a computer lab? Is there a computer at every desk? What does it look like?
It does not. My classroom actually is just set up like a traditional classroom would be set up with a desk for each student.
Gotcha.
And then we have carts with computers. So we have mobile labs where I can bring in either laptops or iPads, whatever device I need for the students to access the tech book.
Gotcha. Tell me about the benefits for the teacher.
The benefits for the teacher is that it's moving you away from the front of the classroom. So we know what it's like to stand in front of the classroom and lecture and have students looking at you just like waiting for you to be done or done with that. So instead you're able to get out and talk with the students and get to have those personal relationships that you really want to build as you teach them your content. And so it just looks like the teacher roaming around talking to the students. The students are engaged and excited about what they're doing in the classroom. So it's a huge shift from what we're used to seeing in traditional classrooms.
Okay, heard teacher benefits. What about student benefits?
For student benefits, the students they're not bored anymore. So they are engaged, they're learning from each other. There's a shift in education right now where we're trying to get to student-centered classrooms. Instead of teacher-directed, we want them being the problem solvers and the thinkers and learning about those STEM connections. And so the students are now engaged and actually interested because they can apply what they're learning in the classroom to the real world. It's not just sheltered within the four walls of the high school. We are expanding their opportunities to outside of the classroom.
Okay, so compare the tech book with the textbook, the paper traditional textbook.
Right, so with the actual, if you're comparing them, it's up to date. So when I'm talking about something, I'm telling them about something that happened maybe last week or last month as opposed to in 1984 when none of them were born. And so, so you're able to just keep things relevant and current for them. And then they have, if they want to know something, if there's a glossary term they don't know, they can click right on it. Instead of having to flip to the back of the textbook, they can search. So instead of having to scan and scan and scan pages, they just type in what they want to know in their tech book and it pulls it right up for them. So it's more interactive, engaging. It has interactive lessons for them to learn and kind of help them be more self-paced as opposed to you read this chapter tonight and answer these questions tomorrow. It's just you can assign things in the future or in the past and keep up with everything.
So they truly do work at their own pace?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes, if the teacher structures it that way.
Okay.
So it's flexible for the teacher to set it up the way they prefer.
Are they tested online?
You can. So within the tech book that we have, the Discovery Education tech book, they have built-in assessments.
Okay.
So students can go in, you can give them assessments to take at home, or you can do it within class, and I definitely do both.
Okay. Interesting. So can a student really speed up and almost be done with a semester well ahead of anybody else, or you control it a little more?
You have to have that control.
Okay.
So it depends. That's the differentiation part that you're able to use. So with one class, I might say, hey, let me post 10 assignments, and you can take your time to do them, or you can do them all at once. But I know that I'm going to be teaching this topic on this day. Now with my on-level students, then I kind of give it to them in chunks so they're not overwhelmed when they log in and see all of the things they need to do. So you just differentiate according to
because
the
you have those that will speed through it and those who will wait till the last minute.
Yes.
That hasn't changed, I'm sure.
That has not changed one bit.
So how long have you been using the tech books and what are you finding are the results?
I've been using it for about 2 years now. So I started out with just getting my feet wet, trying to say, hey, this is an awesome resource. Let me find out how I can use it in my classroom. And I loved it immediately. So by the time I got through my second year of using it, you can see a huge increase in my scores from the end of the year. So they had North Carolina final exam, huge jump in the scores, yes. And so it was just exciting to see, hey, this is working. You know, that's how I know that I can continue using it because it's effective. So significant increase in my test scores at the end of the year.
And are your colleagues in the science department at Laney using them as well?
Yes, so everybody I'm kind of their little guru. I use it the most right now, but I take the time to go out and share the resources with other teachers. We use it in our personal learning communities and in a planning period. Everyone just is really good with sharing the information and learning how to use the tech book from each other.
And I know y'all are doing it at Laney. Is it happening system-wide?
I think right now when we're looking at the data coming back, Laney has the most users, so we're trying to get the other high schools on board through PD to help them learn more about the tech book and how to use it in their classroom.
So it's on computer. What if you have a power failure or an internet issue? What happens then?
Right, when that happens, because it definitely has. You have to have a backup plan. That's one of the first tips I tell people is you have to bring, I don't care what it is, some kind of activity that you can go to have the students working when the internet fails, because it's going to happen. So we can bring out those old textbooks again. Students might be a little lost, like what are we working with here? Or just some activity for them to do or review. Just be prepared with a backup plan for when that happens.
So do you personally have a backup plan that correlates with where you are in the lesson, or say I'm a sub that day and it's down or whatever?
Yes.
Is it just something that's in the standard course of study that?
Yes, so we still have textbooks available. So I think it's important that students do sometimes still use them. So every now and then we do. So I have a class set of textbooks with that are obviously aligned to the standard. So when it fails, the students know, oh, she's going for the textbooks.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Gotta touch the books.
Yes. So I make sure I know exactly what I'm using, because I have taught from the textbook before. So I just go straight to that resource and say, hey, I still know how to teach this content even during a internet failure.
What is one of the biggest challenges with using the textbooks?
Right now, the biggest challenge is actually just accessibility. So a lot of districts are moving to one-to-one technology right now, so that's a challenge, but then you just find a way to problem solve with that. So the biggest challenge is figuring out how can I make this work with a smaller amount of resources. So can I use 10 iPads and still teach an entire lesson? Yes, I can. So it's a challenge, and I'm not going to pretend that it's not, so I just figure out a way around that and say, how can I still make this resource available to students without having a class set of iPads or computers.
Very cool. Technology at its best at Laney High School. Thanks so much for sharing with us. We'll be back in a few minutes right after these messages.
Who was president? The years 1977 to 1981. He gave Latin America control of the Panama Canal. He helped to bring peace between Israel and Egypt. He was blamed for the hostage crisis in Iran. If you guessed Jimmy Carter, you're right. He was the 39th President of the United States. This presidential pop quiz was brought to you by New Hanover County Schools on the Learning Network, Time Warner Cable Channel 5.
We hope you've enjoyed our program today. If you would like to donate to the food bank, volunteer for them, or just learn a little more, you can visit their webpage at foodbankcenc.org or call 251-1465. If you ever have any questions about the topics we discussed here on our show today, please call the school system's public relations office at 254-4180 or check out the website at www.nhcs.net. I'm Sheila Evans, and thanks for joining me today.